What's happening? This is Brian Dawkins, and you're tuning in to The LOFT.
Has brought out the best of me.
I was doing a lot of research on yourself and Krasner. Obviously, you've known Krasner. He's been in office for the past, 8 years. Hasn't really been the best, but I'm excited for you to come on, and I'm also excited to talk to you about like your policies and your how you perceive things and where you things can go, because I have a deep connection with Kensington and obviously the city of Philadelphia. I've been born and raised here my whole life. Grew up in Northeast, but I'm excited to learn more about your journey as like a judge, and want to get out of the bench and be more into become a DA. So I appreciate you for coming on, and I'm happy to have thank you for your time.
All right.
Yeah. So first things first. I know you've been on the campaign trail for a while now, and just want to see how how everything's going with you and how the campaign trail is going so far.
Well, it's Philadelphia. It's a big city. We're running with a little bit of money. So campaigning we're doing door-to-door, got a lot of volunteers, an army, zero paid staff, but we're making inroads. So the way I look at it is I had 53,000 Democrats endorse me in the springtime. I also had 7,000 Republicans write me in. Now, to go into the booth and then voting booth and then go ahead and write somebody's name in is a tedious task. Well, 7,000 Republicans did in the springtime when there was no reason for them to come out in that primary. So I became the Republican nominee. I'm still a registered Democrat. And I had the Forward Party come out and endorse me, which Forward Party's motto is not left, not right. Let's move forward. And that's really who I am. So how's the campaign going? I feel a groundswell out there that people are tired of the failed policies of Larry Krasner. I feel good about it, but it's Philadelphia.
Of course.
We're all going to wake up November 5th. There's going to be a decision made. I'm urging people, my campaign really is, you have to come out and vote. We complain about Larry Krasner. We've been complaining about him for 8 years. But only 16% of the people in Philadelphia come out to vote. Registered voters, 16% come out.
Yeah.
People need to come out. If you're tired of his policies, come out and vote. And if you believe in Pat Dugan, then you need to get all your friends, all your phone contacts. Call them, text them, say, November 4th, come out and vote. Come out and vote November 4th for Dugan. That's really what the campaign is. And I'm making headways out there.
Of course, yeah. No, I love it, and I think you can't. It's hard to not be inspired to go out and vote when you've seen the last 8 years, the way the city has been, and just the way the city is going. I think one of your policies that I love and the things you really emphasize is obviously you've had a great background as a judge, but you're coming in with a fresh set of ideas. You're coming in with a fresh, wet outlook on the city of Philadelphia and being more strict, but like in the middle too. Like I said, I have a huge tie to Kensington with a nonprofit I used to run out there and being out there and just it's tough when obviously the DA has a very big role, but they can't change everything. But I guess my question to you is being on the judge side of things. You've been a judge for 17 years, and going into the DA side of things now, where do you think your upper hand or your advantage is being on that side of it?
So it's pretty simple, actually. What I'll bring to the DA's office is somebody who's actually going to prosecute crime. It's quite that simple. So for, again, as you said, 17 years I was a judge. And 8 years ago, it changed in the courts. All of a sudden, we had prosecutors who came into the courtroom not prepared to move a case forward. Basically left victims hanging out to dry, left neighborhoods hanging out to dry. And that's just fundamentally unfair. So I, as the president judge, had a lot of conversations with Larry Krasner and other leaders in the system. You couldn't get Larry Krasner to budge off his non-prosecution philosophy. And you're talking about Kensington. 8 years ago, we pretty much stopped arresting folks who were committing crime in Kensington.
Yeah.
And that's directly related to Larry Krasner.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things I'm going to do, and I was really glad to see, it looks like there's a head start on this. Last week there was a major raid in Kensington, and you saw Commissioner Bethel standing out there. You saw the federal government. You saw the U.S. attorney.
Yeah.
The one person you didn't see there was Larry Krasner.
Of course.
Now, he's the chief law enforcement officer, and they were taking down a violent drug gang. Larry Krasner wasn't there. Why wasn't he part of that?
Right.
Because he doesn't believe that you should prosecute people in Kensington for the violence that's going on,
Right.
for the abandonment of the neighborhood.
Of course.
And you said a connection to Kensington. I have a connection to Kensington, too. I sleep beside her every night. My wife is a Kenzo. And I grew up in northern Kensington,
Did you really?
Frankfurt.
Yeah.
So I'm from Frankfurt,
Uh-huh.
and when I was a kid, my mom would bring us down to Kensington Avenue, back to school shopping, Christmas shopping. That we used to get on the L and come down to the Midway Theater to go into the and we did that as kids. I had a friend who lived right off the Tioga Park, Jimmy O'Gorman. We called him Red Dog. I'd come down, we'd play, the tackle football on the playground. When it would snow, we would come down to McPherson because that was such an icy, great hill.
Wow.
So Kensington means something to me too. I'm a lifelong Philadelphian, and to see now, listen, Kensington's always been a gritty neighborhood, no doubt about it.
For sure.
But it was never as bad as it's been these last 8 years. And I look at Larry Krasner and think that he's one of the biggest issues of why it's that bad.
Yeah, of course, and I agree. And reasons being is like I've literally seen, like my boys are cops in Kensington. Like I've literally, not them specifically, but I've literally seen like, 'cause we will give out food and clothes on Thursdays at McPherson. So, I literally seen a guy get pulled over, get put in the back of the car for drug possession, and then get taken out in the same minute because there was a more violent crime down the street. And it's like it's just it's crazy. And I think the one thing that I think has been affecting like the city of Philadelphia, we're like everyone's really big on like leadership. Like you see it at the top, right? You see at the top that he's more focused on putting cops behind bars than people in Kensington. I know Mark Dial. That's a big high profile case. We don't have to get into that, but just seeing the way he spoke out against him, and just seeing the way he speaks out against cops in general, it's like, how do you feel safe being a Philadelphia cop? It's
brutal. And I'll talk about the Inspector Bologna case. So Inspector Bologna, high-ranking police officer, who gets out in the front lines when the stuff is getting rough. He's out there standing next to the regular patrol officers. And during one of the demonstrations a couple of years ago, there was an issue. A young kid was trying to pull his baton. There was a struggle. There's a video out there. Well, anyway, so Larry Krasner pressed charges against Bologna for assault against this kid. And a judge threw it out. Krasner refiled those charges. He refiled them again after it was thrown out. Eventually, there was a trial, and Bologna was found not guilty. So the process that went through, he was found not guilty. So after Bologna is done with this case, they file a lawsuit against Larry Krasner in the city of Philadelphia. Now, Larry Krasner, as the DA, has immunity. You can't sue the DA because if you could sue the DA, think about the thousands of cases that would come against a district attorney. That's all they would do. A federal judge, in an extremely rare decision, said, Bologna, you can sue Krasner. The hell with his immunity because of Krasner's egregious misconduct and pattern of prosecuting police officers unjustly. This is a federal judge saying this about our DA. This is not Pat Dugan.
Right.
This is not you saying this.
Yeah.
This is not Mark Dial. This is a federal judge saying Krasner's doing misconduct to the police officer. So, yeah, I mean, 8 years ago when Krasner won, up on stage, go back and look at it. F the police was the chant. Larry Krasner's up there leading them in a chant, F the police. That just does.
That's what I'm saying.
That does a disservice to everybody.
Yeah, it's got to be a certain level of respect because, like, who are the first people you're calling when you get your house broken into, right? And, like, the funny part is that Krasner doesn't even like to to really go against people who are like the petty crimes, the petty thefts, like the things he likes to let a lot of shit go. And I feel like you got to put the hammer down and set an example for these people. You know what I mean? Because you're allowing, I think what he's done the past 8 years from my personal point of view is like he's showing people what they can get away with. And I think that's why, like I said, I've been everything with you, and I have a question for you is like I believe that having a fresh set of ideals and a fresh perspective, and like you said, you've been a judge, you've been in the courtroom for 17 years, and you're a very high-ranking judge, and it's like having a new, fresh face in there, I think, can really put a bit of a morale boost to the city of Philadelphia. So my question to you: where do you believe your strengths lie, and where do you think that when you're at the ballots, where do you why should they vote for you? Where do you think your real strengths lie when it comes to this election?
So, yes, I was a judge for 17 years. I was also the CEO. I was the president judge of Philadelphia Municipal Court.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of thousands of cases come through because it's not only criminal, it's civil, small claims, evictions, code violations, traffic court. So I was in charge of 3 major divisions of the court system. 27 judges, 300 employees, over $10 million budget. So I can run an office, and I did.
Of course.
I did it during COVID, so I like to call myself, I was a wartime president.
Yeah.
But I can also walk and chew gum when it comes to justice.
Mm-hmm.
So my career, I made a career out of sitting in diversion courts, including Veterans Court, which I was one of the founders.
Of course, yeah.
And the thousands of veterans who got in trouble with the law that came through my courtroom, we did a holistic type of approach to help them get back to being the best citizens that they are. And our recidivism rate is less than 10%. If you can get 50 or 60%, you're doing pretty damn good in the system. Unfortunately, that's how it works. But I also, besides giving second chances, which I believe if you do it smartly, hold people accountable, even for air quotes, petty crimes, you hold them accountable, you show them how they could do it, people react, you treat them with respect, generally speaking, they're going to respond to you. So we've had great success in municipal court with these programs and the Court of Common Pleas. But you also have to hold violent criminals accountable. And sometimes that means putting them in jail.
Right.
And Krasner just doesn't want to, frankly, Krasner doesn't want to do those restorative programs either. He says he wants to, but he doesn't. He's been obstructing those programs since he took over. The violent crimes, he said he doesn't want to put people in jail. People who go around and carjack, our citizens, our tourists, those who go to a block party and all of a sudden there's a fight or disrespectful words and they pull out their machine guns and then 3 people are dead, they got to go to jail. And you know when they really got to go to jail? The first time that they do that.
Of course.
And if you look at the track, there's a pattern of people who commit violent crimes in the city of Philadelphia. And we've had the opportunity 3, 4, 5 times to hold them accountable. Krasner withdraws the charges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to train my DAs to be able to prosecute people properly, but also look smartly at some of these other, air quotes again, low-level crimes, because a car break-in to your car is not a low-level crime. And if somebody does that to you 3 or 4 times, or somebody steals your car, that's a major crime to you. So to a neighborhood, to an individual, those crimes mean everything.
Yeah.
And the victim should be listened to, which is another thing I'll do. My DAs are going to listen to the victims. They're going to get a rapport. Hey, Kevin, I'm sorry, your car got stolen last night. Let's talk about it. Can you come to court? We're going to have the court in 2 weeks, Yeah, but
so
he doesn't do that.
I think what I really like about your viewpoints is the fact that you really want to regionalize that type of stuff, right? You want to get in the communities, you want to get into the, into the people's homes, front doors, asking them, things you could be better on, or things that letting people know that you care about them.
So Kevin, I have to give you kudos because you did your homework, yes. And I want to regionalize my prosecutors. If I win this, prior to Krasner, we had the senior assistant district attorneys were assigned regionally throughout the city. So there's 6 major geographic areas that the police are structured. So to assign senior assistant district attorneys to those areas so that DA is talking to the police, talking to the neighborhood, the civic groups, knows the corner stores, knows that when there's a major shooting at a playground, knows all the players in the neighborhood to get them to come to court to support the prosecution.
Yeah.
We don't do that. Krasner's office doesn't do that anymore. I'm going to bring back that geographic thing where we're in the community. We're talking to the community to find out what's going on in your neighborhood.
Of course, no, because think of like when you're growing up, right? You're growing up in Frankfurt, and I grew up in like Mayfair, Chalfont area. You think about how the local cops around the corner, the neighbors at the corner, you have a sense of community, right? I think we've really lost that. Just the way the world has kind of been, since COVID and just like kind of life in general. I think after COVID things have changed a lot, and like obviously people grow and they move out but like I think there always should be a sense of community wherever you're at, because if I know the cop who's always around here. You get comfortable, and that's kind of what builds camaraderie. I think we've lost that for a while, and that's why I love when you mention that, like that building that community back up and letting people know that they're heard. I think it's very important. I think a lot of people don't feel heard, and Krasner wanting to come in and reform everything doesn't mean he made anything better. You know what I mean? So, so I actually want to ask you as well. So, what motivated you really to take that push? Obviously you've built a fantastic career for yourself, but what's giving you that push to really go for DA and really be the change in Philadelphia?
So I have to go back to my childhood. So I was born in Fairmount, before it was called the Art Museum area, when there were 3 or 4 bars on every corner. And it was very, again, a hard scrabbled neighborhood, working class, blue collar. And anyway, so we're sitting on the steps, my grandmother's house on 2211 Power Street, my mother and I, and it's in the 60s. And now in the 60s, we had some racial tensions in this city, Girard College demonstrations, some riots on Broad Street. So in Fairmount, there were these police barricades, those old yellow wooden barricades that were on every corner, so that the police could control the old heads when they were out hanging, drinking beer on the corner, whatnot, just like everybody did in Kensington and Frankfurt back in the day. So I'm sitting on the steps, and a young black kid is riding his bike as fast as he can down Power Street, and he's being chased by some old heads, and they catch him. They catch him on the corner. And one of the old heads picked up one of those yellow boards, took it apart, and then started swinging at this kid with this board. My mother's sitting on the steps. My mother jumps up, runs down, gets in between that kid, that board, and those old heads, pushed them away, grabbed that kid to safety, brought him back to the steps, brought his bike back, waited for the police to arrive. So my mother showed me what I'm supposed to do. Get involved when you see something's wrong. Get up, put yourself in jeopardy, and do it. So when I look at my life, I went in the Army. I was a paratrooper, an infantryman. I was down in Panama, South Korea with the 82nd Airborne Division. So, jump into the fire, and I did that in the 80s. Well, I got out, became a lawyer. 9/11 happened. I jumped back in. I returned to the Army Reserves, and I went to Iraq and Afghanistan. So that's who I am. My hero, my mother, taught me that. So I'm sitting up on the bench for these last 8 years under Krasner, and it's frustrating me how he's ignoring, frankly, that little kid on the bike, that he's ignoring a woman like Kata Scott. He's ignoring somebody like Officer Jimmy O'Connor. And I said, damn it, I can't sit back and watch this. Now, I did put out feelers. Was anybody else of substance going to run against Larry Krasner? And nobody was going to take him on. I said, well, damn it, then I'll jump into the fire. That's what motivates me, because Philadelphia needs somebody to step up for our neighborhoods and our victims. Krasner's not that man. We got 8 years of proof of that. So that's what motivates me.
Love that. I love that. And you even look at like your sports teams, right? Like you look at like an eagle, like the Eagles, right? Like, let's say you got a player that plays really hard, and he may not get all the yards of the game, or he might not do the best in the game. But like the Philly loves people that give a shit. And they love people that hustle and put that work in, because that ultimately does lead to success, and it leads to growth, and it leads to development. And so that leads to my next question. Is that, obviously you embody the city of Philadelphia. You live, breathe. You get it from your mom, get it from everything. And like, really care and you're very passionate about the city and wanting change. So my question to you is, like, when you do get into, the DA's chair, you become the DA. What are some? I'm not gonna say what are the first changes you're gonna do, but like, what are some values you're gonna really emphasize into your office, and like, what are you really gonna promote, and what's gonna be your, like your motto? What's gonna be the driver to what really brings change?
So on day one, I'm going to bring every attorney into a room, and we're going to take our oath all over again. We're going to raise our right hand. We're going to explain what the oath means. It's about honor and integrity and doing your job. It's not Pat Dugan's oath. It's your oath. You own it, so you got to do your job with honor and integrity, with ethics. And frankly, that's been missing the last 8 years. The district attorney's office has something called the Conviction Integrity Unit. Now, it sounds great. They've exonerated dozens and dozens of people who were convicted of murder. Now, that was actually started by Seth Williams previously. So now Larry has taken that on, and he put it on steroids. He brought in this woman by the name of Patricia Cummings to run it. Well, recently there was a hearing on one of these convictions that was, Krasner's office is trying to overturn, and a judge ordered Patricia Cummings to come to court to testify. She refused to come to court. She pled the fifth. The chief investigating officer of the Conviction Integrity Unit is pleading the fifth on a case about exoneration that Larry Krasner says, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. But they won't stand up in court some of these exonerations. So we have to bring integrity back. No innocent man, woman should be in jail. Move mountains, get them out. But we're going to do it with integrity. And Larry lacks that. He was fined. So Larry Krasner personally was fined $4,000 for cheating on a campaign the first time he ran. 4 years later, he was fined $10,000, and his PAC fund was fined $30,000 for cheating. Basically, the super PAC was paying his staff. You're not allowed to do that. It's clear. It's the law. A judge fined Larry Krasner's office $120,000 for lying on one of these exoneration cases. A federal judge called Larry Krasner a liar during an exoneration for a murderer. Larry Krasner's office said they spoke to the victim. Now, the main victims were two people who were killed 30 years ago, brutal murder. An infant survived. That infant is now a grown woman. Krasner's office told the federal judge, we talked to the surviving victim. They never talked to that woman. That judge flipped out, called Krasner's office a liar. It's happening. Court after court calls him a liar. I got to bring integrity back. If you don't have integrity in the district attorney's office, then the whole system fails.
I agree. The bedrock is integrity, and I think the pendulum swung a little bit too far, like you said. I think you really want to restore balance. And so let me ask you this on a positive note. What are some great qualities about the city of Philadelphia that we can build on for when you become DA? What are some things that Philadelphia has been known for that's great that, is the only thing that can go up from here? What are some things that Philly can really build on?
Well, obviously, the first thing is our downtown. I mean, we are the birthplace of America. You can go from the Delaware River and walk up to the Art Museum. And in between, what are you going to see? You're going to see the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, the Constitution Center, the Betsy Ross House. We used to have a great shopping district. Now Macy's is gone. But I think we can bring that back if we start backing, if we support the businesses down there. But then you walk along the park. You go to City Hall, what a beautiful building. You go along the Parkway. Oh, my God. That's a world-class parkway, the Art Museum. And then you go down the river paths that we have along the Schuylkill, the bike paths. Fairmount Park is one of the greatest city parks in the country. And you know what? We're trying to do it better up along the Delaware towards the northeast, going through the river wards. We see, better neighborhoods coming in. it just, our neighborhoods are fantastic. I mean, you go to Stock's Bakery, you go to Delisandro's for a cheesesteak, John's Roast Pork. You go to all these little hidden gems.
Yeah.
The restaurants that we have in Center City, throughout the city, are world class.
Yeah.
But the people are number one. Go into a Wawa to see what Philly's all about.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, the atmosphere at a sports game. We're all 4 for 4s in this city,
Of course,
man.
yeah.
It's great. The Sixers and the Flyers are back winning again. I mean, we're all bummed out about the Phillies because we know they could be winning this damn World Series. And we're all diehard Birds fans.
I know.
So I love the neighborhoods. And I used to love to be able to go from one end to the other on SEPTA. I would ride the subway, the L, the 15 trolley, the 66 bus. You know, I love the way the neighborhoods are. Yeah, we can still make it better. So I do love the people.
I agree. You know, it's so funny. I was in Tampa. I was DJing for the Eagles versus Bucks game. And I went to the game, and our whole section was green. Like the crazy tailgates they had, the Phillies fans, the way that Philly like loves their teams and stuff. I've never seen anything like it, and that's why like I don't ever want to leave Philly and like in that regards, because I just feel like the way the city gets when it's a sports season, right? Like when it's Red October, when it's the bird season, when it's the Sixers are playing well, like. You know, it's fun. It's amazing to see, and like the tradition of the tailgates taking the L down, taking train down to the to the stadiums and stuff, and all that, and that's stuff that you can't replace. And now it's just a matter of how do we make that more safe? How do we make people feel safer being outside? How do we implement the mindset? I feel like of just like appreciating our officers, right? And that they go in and out of life, every single day, putting themselves taking care in harm's way to take care of its civilians, and so how do you believe that we can kind of restore that? I think things have gotten a little too crazy. The rhetoric's gotten a little too crazy, I think, over the past few years. How do you believe we can bring that rhetoric back of, the police? Obviously, there's always a few, there's those cases, right? And you take those cases head on. But how do we get the overall morale back, being like, these police are here to protect us and serve us, and they're trained, properly? How do we restore that morale back?
Well, what I do like, Commissioner Bethel, I love his mentality. I like Mayor Parker's support for the police department. She said we need to start arresting people. We need to back the police officers. And they both want to do more community policing. So with the mayor and the police commissioner now backing the officers out there, patrolling the 15th district or the 39th police district, who are trying to get out there and engage with the community, get a rapport. The district attorney needs to get in line with that as well. And of course, if there's a bad apple, we need to take care of that wholeheartedly. Sometimes there's some mistakes made on the job. Was it a mistake, or was he or she committing a crime? And Krasner right away says it's a crime. How about if we investigate it properly? Listen to internal affairs. Listen to the independent witnesses. Look at all the evidence. Then make a determination. So it's that I want to say that I will have the back of Philadelphia. And that includes Philadelphia police officers. It also includes the backs of bus drivers. Krasner stopped prosecuting people who assaulted our bus drivers. He even stopped prosecuting people he certainly stopped prosecuting people who assault police officers. I seen that in court. But he also stopped prosecuting people who assault our EMTs and our firefighters. Now, if we can't help our first responders or those bus drivers who are trying to help us out there, then there's something really wrong with the system. In fact, Pennsylvania appointed a special prosecutor to prosecute crime on SEPTA. Now, that is crazy to me because SEPTA, most of it is within the city's jurisdiction. Now, obviously, it's in Delaware County. They got to handle it. But Philadelphia now has a special prosecutor appointed by the state.
It's crazy.
To handle crime on the L. That doesn't make sense because Krasner wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that, when it comes to stuff like that, like I said, localizing it, and because I think you can't overhaul an entire city or an entire system just at the top. It starts with the people on the ground level, and I think that I think implementing some stuff like that, like, can really, like, build morale in each individual township, each individual part of the city, and overall it creates an overall feeling of, you know, building the morale back up. And so let me ask you this: so as your time as a judge, you know, and just your entire career, in the courtroom, are there things you have seen that you were like, oh, I could definitely make a difference with that? Like, are there things that you've noticed in the court system that can be changed or improved on that currently aren't?
So I think the main one is, frankly, is that 8 years ago, we went from having a prosecutor and a defense attorney in the courtroom to having, frankly, 2 defense attorneys on almost every case.
Mm-hmm.
So the mindset of anybody who's going to come work for the prosecutor's office is you are there for the rule of law. You're there to help the victim, get the victim through the process. You're there for justice. Now, that doesn't mean every single case we have to slam everybody. You have to look at the case smartly. And the district attorneys, the assistant district attorneys in the courtroom stopped doing that. They would withdraw over 70% of the cases, meaning they said, never mind, we're not going to proceed forward with this case. Somebody was accused of a crime.
Yeah.
They just said, Judge, we're not going to do that. Now, the judge can't stop the DA from doing that. I want to train my DAs on how to present a case.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Kata Scott, this poor woman who was murdered recently, beautiful cheerleader. And you know what? Finally, the media is paying attention to a case like this because they've been going on for years. But this case should not have happened. Mr. Keon King, who's the alleged murderer in this matter.
He's like 21, right?
21. Yes, he's 21. Kata was 23.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a few other cases involving kidnapping and violence this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the cases in front of a couple judges early in the springtime, there was video evidence of the assault. I mean, everybody saw the video of him trying to get into a house. The victim actually took it. And there was another witness who was present that saw all of this. So the victim didn't come to court. That happens a lot in domestic violence and in these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But you had the evidence. That attorney had the evidence of video evidence. You could present the video evidence and get that case held for court. That DA did not do it. The case was withdrawn. Oh, by the way, while we're talking about that case, Keon King was standing in the courtroom with a new arrest warrant. He had another incident against another woman, so there was an arrest warrant. It used to be, and I will train my DAs to do this properly, that the DA would say, Your Honor, this guy, Mr. Keon King, has a new arrest warrant. I would like the sheriffs or the police to take him into custody. And it would happen. It didn't happen in this case because they didn't tell anybody. And oh, by the way, when Mr. Krasner came out with the buck stops here, saying, all right, we made mistakes, that's a bunch of BS, because Krasner lied that day at this press conference saying that it was the bail system. We don't want to wake up a judge in the middle of the night, so we didn't appeal the bail decision on Keon King. The problem with that comment is all the bail decisions on Keon King were during the day. He flat out lied that he didn't want to wake a judge up in the middle of the night. So the DAs, it's not a crack. It's not a crack in the system that Kate is dead. There was another case a couple of years ago, a woman by the name of Gladys Coriano. Similar circumstances, a repeat offender. He had an arrest warrant standing in front of the judge that the DA never told anybody about it. And at the time, everybody called it, this one fell through the cracks, let's fix it. Well, Krasner didn't fix it. The young man who lost his mother, this Gladys Coriano, her son testified during Krasner's impeachment. It wasn't a crack in the system. It's a trap door that Larry Krasner constructed that all these victims are falling through. So Kata Scott is not a one-off. It's been happening for years. And that's one of the other reasons why this guy stepped off the bench to take this man.
Of course. So my genuine question, just as like a normal citizen, just like as a bystander, like, don't you think, like, as a DA, you know that your responsibility is to, whether or not you fear backlogging these cases or making the process longer, doesn't mean you need to get rid of every case is important. It could be someone's mother on the line, a young daughter on the line. My question is, how does someone like that allow the system to get that messed up? Like, how do you just allow people to walk who have even prior record or even current warrants? Like, how, like, what do you, like, genuinely, on like a devil's advocate, what do you think is going through his head to think like stuff like that is okay? Like, what do you think his ultimate goal for that is, though?
I don't understand how he could look himself in the mirror, because no matter what his ideological feelings are, these are innocent people whose lives are being snuffed out. People are being assaulted, and he's not following through. He's not training his office like he should. That is his job. That's what the citizens elected him to do. If I have to go into his mind, I think Larry Krasner's entire career is built on helping people stay out of jail, not just as a defense attorney, but I don't think he's a socialist. I don't think he's a communist. I don't think he's a Democrat. I don't think he's a progressive. I know he's an anarchist. He's an anarchist. When we go back to the riots, the civil unrest that occurred here a few years ago in Philadelphia, there was a woman who threw a Molotov cocktail at a Philadelphia police car. Krasner wouldn't prosecute her. The federal government had to prosecute her. The only person I can think of who thinks it's okay to throw a Molotov cocktail at a police vehicle is an anarchist. So I don't know what else to call it.
Of course. It's funny. Like, you think you'd have a family you'd want to protect or just something like it. To me, I can't wrap my head around it.
So he's got a family. So yes, he has protection. It's called a 12-man armed detail. I was just up at Indiana and Marshall Street, going up there to ask Larry Krasner to debate me, day 322.
Yeah, I saw you.
Well, I did it today at a shooting where a 7-year-old was shot yesterday. And I said on this video, I said, yo, Larry, have you ever been up here without your armed escort? Because I'm up here right now, Larry. Come to the neighborhoods and let people hear from you on why you don't think that you should prosecute violent criminals. So, yeah, he's got his protection. That's what he has.
And I guess he doesn't want to debate you. He probably just...
No, and you know what? I find that it's quite humorous because I am Pat Dugan. I'm a regular guy. I was an infantryman, a bartender. Yeah, I went to law school and all that, but I was that infantryman bartender and a kid from Frankfurt and Fairmount. That's who I am. And people say, damn, you don't sound like a judge, my legalese and all that. That's not, I am Pat Dugan, the Philadelphian, the kid who played wire ball, stick ball.
Of course.
That's who I am. Larry Krasner's this polished, seasoned civil rights attorney, law professor. He goes on MSNBC, CNN, which, oh, by the way, if they would let me, I'd go on those shows as well. But so he's all this well-polished guy, yet he won't debate me. Why? I mean, what am I going to say to him? I'm talking to him like a guy from the neighborhood, Larry. Come on. So debate me. I don't get it.
I think it's I just think that you're very relatable, and you come from the same place as a lot of these people in the city of Philadelphia, literally. And I think people like him probably think he doesn't have to because he's in that position where he feels like he doesn't need to, but he knows that if he would, he would probably get exposed for a lot of the things he's done. And you ask any normal citizen, what they think of Krasner, and it's always negative. It's always negative, and I can't wrap my head around it. And I think that what the people need is someone who is relatable and someone who cares. I think it's the most important thing. And so my question to you is, like I said, playing devil's advocate, what would you say to someone who is maybe said, oh, he doesn't have any DA experience? Well, obviously you've been a judge, but what would your rebuttal be to someone who says, oh, he doesn't have DA experience or anything like that? What would you say to them?
I've been in a courtroom for the last 30 years. I've been in war zones, so I can handle the pressure. But understand, if I become the district attorney, I am not going in the courtroom to prosecute a case. I'm going to train my DAs to do that. That is the role of the district attorney, to make sure that the office is well trained. And, you know, with my CEO experience. And I also, the stuff that I've been involved in for the entire 17 years that I was on the bench, I used to actually go train district attorneys. I would go and train Philadelphia district attorneys and the public defenders as a judge. That was something that people did. Larry stopped inviting me after a while. I train judges. For the last 7 or 8 years, I'd drive out to Harrisburg and I would train, run through about 300 judges a year that I would get up and train on a subject. So I have that ability. You know, people are saying, "Oh, he's not a prosecutor." That's not a prerequisite to the job.
Of course.
What it is leading our city in the right way,
Of course.
and having compassion for victims, and empathy for people, knowing what the law says. You know, people talk about read a book, Larry. Read the Crimes Code. Read the Crimes Code. You have an obligation to do it, and I know I can get in there and do this.
Amazing. And so, what are some things you would teach a prosecutor, or at least you would show? How would you lead a prosecutor? This, I don't get too into detail, but just to give like people who are listening a kind of general idea of like when you say that you're gonna go in and you're gonna overhaul, you're gonna lead the show prosecutors how to get the job done properly. What are some things you would implement with them?
So the first thing I'm going to do is appoint a mentor, some seasoned attorneys, and right now, if I win this thing, I'm going to bring back some attorneys who have left the office. I've talked to many who said they would come back, mid-level folks who ran to the counties, to the Attorney General's office. I'd bring them back to revamp what we're doing down there. So mentorship, so that when that young attorney comes back from a hard day in court and says, "Oh my God, what happened to me? I got these 20 cases and I'm not even sure what happened." They can speak to somebody and say, "Well, I did this, I did that. This is what the judge said. This is what happened." Now, the after action report is, can we refile that case? Can we do this case again? Should I file a motion to appeal on this matter? Set it up. That's not set up in the office right now. And also direct line supervisors. These mentors and supervisors previously in the district attorney's office would either be in the courtroom or down the hallway so that this new attorney could go speak to them. But we would also implement a boot camp. When they first come on into the system, we would go ahead and teach them how to do prosecution 101. One of the biggest things is know the law, know how to do a direct and cross-examination, but know how to relate to a witness. When you get that file, don't wait to the day of the court to hope they show up. How about if you call them early? How about if you leave them a voicemail and say, "Hey, this is Pat Dugan. I'm the DA. Give me a call back. I'd like to speak to you about your case. Now, it's 2 weeks away, but I'd like to speak to you." Get a rapport with somebody. "I understand you were assaulted violently. I'd really like to talk to you." Sometimes you got to do that in off hours. There are no off hours for a prosecutor.
Of course.
Now they come in the morning and they leave by the afternoon. The old DAs, they used to stay all night, and that's what my office is going to do. I'm going to teach them how to refile cases, how to do a bail appeal, direct examination, relate to witnesses, good decorum in the court. I'm also going to teach them two things that really annoy the heck out of me as a judge. I'm going to teach them that we do not have something called First Street, and we don't have something called 14th Street. It's called Front Street, and it's called Broad Street.
Yeah.
And some of these new attorneys that Krasner has brought on, and it's funny because his pitch to attorneys all over the country is, come to Philadelphia and work in the prosecutor's office because you can be a public defender with a budget. That's crazy. This is his sales pitch. Come be a public defender with a budget. That just doesn't make sense. And they have no clue about anything like what's Broad Street. And they don't stay. They're not invested. So the turnover's horrible.
Of course, yeah. No, and I noticed when he first got into office, then he laid off a bunch of guys, and he brought in a bunch of.
He fired them. He didn't lay them off.
He fired. So he laid that
unceremoniously. It was a snowy, cold day, and called them in and said, "Clear your shit out of here."
That's crazy.
It was nuts.
It's insane. Yeah, I can't.
And the institutional knowledge that he just flushed down the toilet. Besides firing those 31 folks, he actually deleted a big portion of the computer where in the office you would put your lessons learned, like how did I get over this evidentiary issue? How did I work this case? How did I appeal this case? And everybody puts all their lessons learned in there so new attorneys can go on there and search for an issue. Krasner deleted that on purpose so that his new attorneys had no idea how to do these cases. It's deliberate. This is where I come up with that word anarchist.
Yeah, it sounds corrupt. And like, to me, I can't but my question, like, it keeps coming back, I guess, is like, why? Like, why delete that stuff? Why make it harder for your new, prosecutors to come in to not be able to do their job properly?
If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, smells like a duck, goes to the bathroom like a duck, it's an anarchist. It's an anarchist.
For sure. And what would you say to the people? How would you end off with, like I said, I really appreciate your time coming in, and honestly, I'm really rooting for you. And like I said, I've done a lot of research on the way you want to, like I said, bring the people together and build community and make things, make Philly, a great place to live again, and build on the amazing culture and history that it has. So my question is, what would you say to people who are maybe on the fence about voting in general, or people who are on the fence about, like, what's the ultimate difference factor that differentiates between you and Krasner that would get them out of bed to go vote?
You know what? It almost upsets me. If you have been paying attention to Larry Krasner, and you know what? I know a lot of people really haven't. He's on the news all the time. They don't beat him up enough for all his, not even mistakes, the things he's doing on purpose, his ineptness and all that. Larry Krasner is truly an anarchist. I'm a Philadelphian, and I truly am. I'm in the middle. I want to do restorative rehabilitative justice. I want to hold people accountable for retail theft. Larry Krasner basically legalized retail theft 8 years ago. That's why 9 out of 10 Wawas left us in Center City. That's why Rite Aids are gone. That's why Macy's is gone, because of the violent death of the security guard who was stabbed to death by a repeat offender that Larry Krasner would not take care of. That's the reason why I am running. Folks, he's been doing this for 8 years. I want to help people. Good people have a bad day. We can work on it. But violent criminals, they need to go away. And that's what I want to do. I want to make our neighborhoods safer. I want every grandparent and every parent to feel safe to let their child go to the corner store. How about we feel safe when they walk to school? How about when we want them to go to the playground instead of having all these deaths at the recreation centers? How about if we have some safety? You can sit on your steps, your porch, and be in a safer neighborhood. That's the difference between Larry and I. I know the neighborhoods. I have compassion for the victims. I know what it's like to sit on those steps, on those porch. I know what it's like to feel your heart go through your throat. Last week, my grandson, who plays soccer at St. Joe's Prep, was practicing at 17th and Girard with his club team. And while he was there, 6 or 7 o'clock at night, some clown decided to shoot up the corner. My grandson tells me, "Hey, Pop, 37 rounds, according to the police, 37 rounds were fired that whizzed over his and 40 other kids on this field."
Yeah,
and I knew it was real because he described how they whizzed, and I've been there. So it's one of those things where I want to make it safer for my grandson. It's personal, but I also want to make it safer for yours. And that's the difference between Krasner and I. And if you're hearing this before November 4th, you got to get up and vote. November 4th, Tuesday, it's coming. It's coming real fast. Not only you, pull your family out to vote as well. Go down your phone and text everybody on your phone contacts in Philly. Vote Dugan, fire Krasner, November 4th. We can do this. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Mr. Dugan, Pat, thank you so much for your time. I know.
Thanks, Kevin.
I know you're a busy, very busy man, so I want to thank you for your time. I know you got a lot going on today. But like I said, it means a lot to me as someone who's been in Philadelphia my entire life, just to, to speak with someone who truly cares about the city of Philadelphia and who wants to really create change for the city of Philadelphia. And then I know when you get in, you will. So, this is going to go out as soon as possible, probably today, tomorrow. So I really want to thank you for your time. And like I said, I'm rooting for you. Everyone go vote. You know, like I said, the city of Philadelphia really needs a new face, a new leader, and I believe that, you know, Mr. Dugan can do that. And yeah, thank you so much. And
Thanks for having me, man.
Of course, go Birds.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.